Sure did. What's the 441? Martians, peace, love, and all that goodness. Eat the thumbs up. How we living? Yeah, Sinners on the docket. We're going to decode this real quick. We had to do the deep dive later, but while it's still hot, while it's on the press, I just went to go see this movie twice, Saturday and Sunday. The vibes were totally different. I did watch Saturday on IMAX, and the IMAX is magnificent, marvelous. The feels, the sounds, the whole view, everything is way, way more acute, and you can actually feel yourself more into the movie. So Sunday I watched it on a more grainy version and it was a little more watered down. But I watched it the second time just to catch the stuff that I missed. You know what I mean? So Saturn Day, oddly enough, or alignment enough, it would be more powerful on a Saturn day. So on Saturday, the movie was super packed. There was people sitting in our seat. We had to get them to move out our seat. They was standing in somebody else's way, in our way, trying to figure out where their seats was. Blah blah blah. When we get out of the movie, it's thundering and storming, pouring down rain. So the whole vibe of Saturn Day was on point because Pan is something more uh, known as a Saturnian type of character. So let's get right into this. So we got right off the bat, we're gonna get into this rabbit hole because there's so many rabbit holes and ways that they took this movie. Amazing job by the writer. You have the Greek god, the Greek mythological story of Pan, and Pan is the music being. Really, he just enjoys music. He doesn't create music. He's not the keeper of music or no shit like that. But he enjoys music and plays tricks and he has a wild attitude about life. So this is the horned goat, and this is what the modern day devil is portrayed as. So when you're dealing with Pan, Pan was the Pied Piper, and he would play the flute or play the music, and he would use the music to get into your spirit and divert you from your dreams and make his dreams come true by using you. You follow what I'm saying? So this horned goat, he would swindle other people into allowing them into his existence so he could steal their gifts, steal their sound, and steal everything about them. They also, in an extension, want to experience what humans experience because they are not human. These are originally known as watchers in the Bible, and in the Apocrypha, you can find this, or in the original Ethiopian Bibles, you can find the stories of Enoch and the stories of the watchers. And the watchers were sent down here to make sure that Earth was safe and make sure that the beings on Earth were protected from outside beings and sources, wicked entities or such. You know what I mean? And instead, they chose to love and be with the humans, and it kind of gave a whole new spin on life. Some of the beings and deities took things into their own hands and they would swindle the humans into giving them what they wanted. So, y'all stay with me. Up at the top, you got the Eternals. At the bottom, you got Peter Pan. So, the Eternals is a Disney movie as depicted as what I just was speaking on, the Watchers. They're in the same vein as that. They come down to protect the earth, but as you've seen, they gave too many gifts out, too many different technologies, and they began to fraternize and love the humans and it changed the evolution of existence. So the direct correlation to this entire eternal scenario is because Pan is a watcher. He is what you call Peter Pan, and Peter Pan is Icarus from the Eternals, the main character, also known as Superman. They said this in the movie. Kingo went up to Sprite, the little girl right here, and said, "Hey, you know, you're like Tinkerbell, and we're like the Lost Boys, and Icarus is like Peter Pan. Peter Pan is a story of a child story of the Greek god Pan, the devil. What did Peter Pan do and want to do? He wanted to live forever. They lived forever. They didn't even eat. They ate imaginary food. None of them were actually alive and existing and real. So, same thing with the Eternals. They all were eternal. Nothing else to say about that. They were able to exist as what you see in all of these flicks as vampires, basically. So basically, the movie is preached around dancing with the devil. The boy is preacher boy. He's the chosen one from a blessed background of his father being a preacher. So he's steeped in Christianity. And his father told him that he was going to bring the devil back home with him if he kept meddling in the pastures that he was in. And through the Christian lens, this is the devil. And through previous texts, like I was saying, this is a different story. But you're looking at a fallen angel, a watcher who was sent down here to earth to protect and deem an appropriate land for the humans and make sure that things were safe. Instead, they swindled and they tricked the entities. And this is directly connected to the Pied Piper story. Excuse me, Pied Piper story. We all know the story of him playing his music and swinging the kids into the woods, and they would pay bonfire and dance and make music all night. And quote unquote, Pied Piper is a story of pedophilia, because who else do we see play out the moniker of the Pied Piper? We have individuals that have demonic attachments and have basically sold their avatar to spirits and deities that are no longer in natural alignment with the earth realm, and they are vampire, and they use people's energy so that they can experience the happenings. So whether this is metaphysical, physical, or both, this energy is a real thing. So you have R. Kelly, and you've seen through his entire career, he will prey on young women. He will get caught up with young women, underage women, and this whole problem is basically perverting the people's minds by the way of music. Music is one of the strongest, one of the most potent, powerful weapons that you can use on earth. So the deity Pan, he knows exactly that, and he uses these musical tools for the exact opposite alignment as which most angelic, benevolent beings do. This being would pervert the energy, and this is what you would see on TV when you call each other the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. Who the GOAT? We the GOAT. You know, Drake, J. Cole, any rapper in Hollywood call themselves the GOAT. Even Kendrick Lamar, all of them. So be wary of the GOAT pretext, because what you're doing is propagating this energy, which is known as the modern day devil, if you will. So y'all do your own research. We'll do a deeper dive into this, but this is what we got for now. Peace, y'all. Love. Okay, part two. Let's continue on how he steals the gifts from the chosen many. We already discussed this guy, him and his little freaky little songs, and his mind is telling him no, but his body is telling him yes. So, why was his mind telling him no? Because he has a conscience in the beginning of his career, and he know them underage girls was not for his grown, retarded ass. Excuse my language. But not only that, you had all of these artists that we all loved, but every song that they had was basically toxic. Like, I don't know how else to put it, but it was toxic. Everything was no good. You got Diary of a Mad Band. All of them guys was out of control and toxic. The most potential we had was Lauryn Hill right there, and she talked about a bunch of X factors and a bunch of bad things. You know, Usher, he was a little kinky, little horny, little young boy. Boys to Men, they was still okay, but Mary J. Blige, she was all bruised and beat up and battered woman. And it just went on and on and on until it got into the worst categories of today. So, no judgment, but you got all the way down to this, and this is how we are portrayed on the front screen. This is how the Hollywood characters portray us on the majority level. The Cardi B's, the Sexy Reds, the blase, 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 blah. But the ones that they can't compromise and the ones that won't sell their soul, but they did get into a game that they didn't know was really that treacherous, they would get rid of these people. All of these talented, very, very beloved brothers that belong to the tribes of America, modern day America, you know, ancient Atlantis, aka Turtle Island, however you want to put it. But these are reincarnated souls and beings that come back and were duped and tricked. Some completed their mission, I would suppose, and then others were, I would have to say, in my mind, ejected a little earlier than they were supposed to be. So you got then and now. You look at the bright, beautiful skin that this young man has on the left, and although his hair is real young right there, he had got to a point where his hair was super boof and big, and now he's like this. Excuse me. This is what they do to our talented beings that they let live. They cook their spirit, which basically they grind them into a system that is disagreeable to natural alignment, and it begins to decay their avatar from the inside out. The whole goal is to use these individuals' magnificence and magnetize how do you say it, their magnetism. They're using their magnetism to put in place of their weak ass, quote unquote, the devil, quote unquote, Pan, the Peter Pan, or however you want to say it. So you have to operate with these entities at the slightest, and you usually have to just say no to everything that they have to offer, because if you do not, you'll end up like that last picture we was looking at of that young man getting spirit cooked, and he looks like his locks was like standing up like this, and they was like smoking. Them hoes was smoking a little bit, because that's what they do, man. So they have our people in a system that no longer works for us, and we're waking up to it. And beautiful job to Ryan Coogler and the gang for portraying a movie that can reach the masses to kind of portray the true aspects of what they was dealing with, because you was looking at a lot of different rabbit holes. But if you stay with the the entity that was the antichrist, if you will, because he was going for the Christ consciousness, the young child that comes from a preacher's background. So he was steeped in Christian beliefs, which ultimately values the Christ energy. You know what I mean? That whole play is what makes the devil attack harder, and the energy attack you on all levels, where it becomes physically uh, unbearable, or you'll physically have scars like Homeboy did in the movie. I don't even know if that was a real thing. I have not even looked up if the story of him was a real person. I heard that it was a real story of a guitar player selling his soul to play better guitar. I'm not sure. I know people TikTok a lot of things. I do my own research. But y'all do y'all's own research and not just TikTok research. Go find a book, or find some ancient artifacts up in YouTube, where a lot of these older artists will tell their truths before they die. And they'll explain what happened before they pass away and go to, hello. But most of them have sold their souls, or quote unquote sold their souls. That's what they call it. So most of them will get into an industry, what they call dancing with the devil, with an industry that propagates the goats and the greats and the greatest of all time. That's what they kind of moniker it as, but it's really the goat, the horn god Pan. That's their deity, the Baphomet, all these different deities. In a lot of movies, you'll see the horned animal, or beast, if you will. You'll see them propagate the goat all the time in their movies, their videos, their albums, their TV shows. All of them are surrounded around the goat. And that will let you know how they have taken an oath to pledge their energy and allegiance to a particular deity. So you got to ask yourself, why is the GOAT important? What is so important about this GOAT? Who the GOAT? We the GOAT. You the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. That's the whole slogan and the whole shenanigans that they propagate, so that they can push the energy, the man, I can't get it out because I get aggravated. When they push this freaking energy to usurp your actual God-given energy. They're all partaking this activity of saying who's the GOAT. And every song will say something about being the GOAT. But Cat Williams, he spoke real clever on the story about, why don't we talk about the sheep?
Like, why? Because the whole show on Zeus was a humiliation ritual. You know what I'm saying?
I like that terminology.
Yes, it was a humiliation ritual. Zeus is in love with Greek mythology. Oh. Greek mythology is demonic in a real way. Brodesky, I didn't sat up, bruh. What piqued my interest, right? Zeus Network changed my name from Pied Piper to Pipe. No, from Pipe Piper, right? Yeah. They said Pipe.
Yeah, Pipe Piper.
Because I'm a licensed plumber. Yeah. They changed it to Pied Piper, right? So that sparked my interest. I said, what the is a Pied Piper?
Yeah.
Why the are they calling me that? Right? So I Googled Pied Piper. The Pied Piper is Greek mythology. A guy that led 130 children to their death. Yeah. And only 3.
Okay, to clarify, Greek mythology necessarily isn't demonic, but the entities and the way that they portray their beings, it has a very malevolent and demonic-esque type aura about it. So homeboy Aaron Plummer is right. I couldn't find the Cat Williams one, but that one is a better clip to express what we're talking about today. So y'all do some research on this center situation and why the Pied Piper is so beloved and why people call themselves the GOAT. Don't call yourself the GOAT. I'm not the GOAT. I'm God's child.